with former Ohio State standout and 1991 Chicago Bulls member Dennis Hopson. How are you doing today?
Good. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
You're one of the best basketball players in the city of Toledo in the 80s. How was the competition like in the City League? Because you had to play against Scott and Matt Cumber.
You know what? I think the competition, the level of basketball is still the same, but the competition is probably a little different than what it was when I played. Scott, Matt Cumber, DeVilbiss, all those teams were tough. And actually, my senior year, St. Francis, they won the state with Sean Reed and Todd Mitchell and Roy Ware, those guys. But now, when I go watch games, high school games, you might see a good game every 3 games. Unlike when I played, you've seen a good game every night. And I think even before my time, back in the day when you had Toledo, Matt Cumber, and those schools and the other schools that I mentioned, they were just, you had great basketball games. And plus, the big thing was you had great players night in and night out. So I think it's a little bit different, but, you know, basketball is always going to be basketball. It's just, you're not going to find those special games night in and night out like when we played back in the day.
Who was your biggest rival when you was at Rogers?
You know what? Again, every night was a rival. I don't even think we knew about rivals back in the day, but we knew about playing tough every night because we were going to be playing against somebody every night. Again, you had at Matt Cumber, you had Clint Ramsey. At St. John's, you had Don Muhort, and those guys were tough back in the day. At St. Francis, you had Sean Reed and Todd Mitchell and Roy Ware. So there's a lot of great guys that played on each team. At Toledo, you know, I can even throw Toledo Libby in there. You know, those teams were great teams back in the day. So it was just great basketball. Not discounting or discrediting the basketball today. It was just great basketball back in the day.
How did Ohio State come across?
You know, this is funny here. You wouldn't believe, but and a lot of people, actually nobody knows this, me and maybe a couple other people. I actually committed to the University of Cincinnati, and nobody knew that. But what happened was I decommitted because the coach, Coach Badger, got fired that summer going in, and I decommitted, and that's when I committed to Ohio State. And when I look back, you know, my 4 years at Ohio State, it was the right decision. You know, I think the big thing is when I played for Eldon Miller my first 3 years, I played a lot as a freshman. I even started some as a freshman. Started as a sophomore. Started as a junior and led the team in scoring as a junior. And actually, Coach Miller got fired that year. And after averaging 20 points a game and leading the team in scoring and knowing that I had a chance to be an NBA player, I was concerned about the 4th year, me going in with a new guy, not knowing who this new guy was. But when Gary Williams got the job, it was a big plus and a big advantage for me because he allowed me to do what I wanted to do. And he just took my game from one level, averaging 20 points a game, to my senior averaging 29 points a game and being the second leading scorer in the nation.
Now, the Big Ten had a lot of competition because there were teams like Iowa, Purdue, Illinois. Who was the squad that gave you the toughest?
You know, Michigan is always, you know, and I grew up a Michigan fan. I think when you're young and you're from Toledo, and Michigan being 35, 40 minutes away, and, you know, the blue and gold, the colors, I think I grew up being a Michigan fan like a lot of young people here in Toledo did. But the competition in the league was outstanding. Again, back in the day, the Big Ten was like it was this year. I thought the Big Ten was great this year, you know, but I thought it had fallen off in the previous years. But back then, it was a grind every night. Anybody could beat anybody on any given night, so you had to come with your A game. But I remember my senior year, we played Iowa, and they were #1 in the country, and we beat them on national TV. And I ended up having 36 points, and I knew there was a lot of NBA scouts there at the game, so that was a special moment. And anytime we beat Michigan was a special moment. But again, our biggest rival would probably be Indiana. You know, that was that Ohio State, that Bobby Knight, you know, coaching Indiana back in the day, and he played at Ohio State. So if I had to pick a rival, it would be Indiana.
Because everybody was real high on Steve Alford.
Yeah. Steve could play. He was one of those guys that came in with me. He came in the same time, but he was the guy that played and started as a freshman, and he got better every year. And actually, his senior year, they won the NCAA tournament. So, you know, he got a lot of love, and he was that guy to take Indiana, which was always a good place because Isaiah Thomas went there. A lot of great players went to Indiana, but he kept Indiana on the map. So he did what he was supposed to do for the university.
Now, he was a 3rd pick in the 1987 draft. How was the experience were you going up to the draft? Was there any place that you wanted to play for, or you just like, whatever team picks me, I'll be there?
Again, I think just like growing up in Toledo, I was a Michigan fan. I think as I got older and watching basketball, I was a Cavs fan because it was right around Ohio. And I think that was a dream of mine to always play for the Cavs. It was unfortunate because I did get picked so high, and the Cavs I don't think they had a pick that high when I came out of school. Actually, they may have had a pick that high. I'll take that back. I can't recall who they picked. But I knew at the draft it would either be 2, 3, or 4. Number 2 would have been Phoenix. Number 3 was New Jersey. And number 4 was L.A. Clippers. Yeah.
They picked Reggie Williams.
Yeah, exactly. So once Armand Gilliam got picked number 2, I knew it was going to be between me and Reggie Williams to go number 3 and number 4. So if I had my choice, the East Coast for me was coming from the Midwest was difficult. It was difficult because it's too fast paced.
Yeah.
And again, me being young, 21 years old, I think maybe coming out of school and going from slow pace to fast pace as far as the living and the people. If I had my way, I would have been out in California. Even though it's fast paced, but I could deal more with California than I could with New Jersey.
You was hoping the Clippers would have picked you that year.
I was hoping if I had to go either or, it would have been the Clippers.
Playing with the Nets, how was the experience?
It was tough. And the thing was, they had been a down program for a long time. After they lost Michael Ray Richardson, and they had Otis Birdsong, and he was hurt a lot because they did have a team some years before that. But leading up into me coming to play for them, they kind of struggled a little bit.
Yeah.
So it was tough because you get, I think when I leave a situation like Ohio State and you come into another situation and you kind of up and down as far as wins and losses, it can be tough. And being so young, it could wear on you.
Yeah.
And I think if I was older and I was put in that position to where I went from winning to losing, it might be a little easier to deal with versus me being young, starting off losing. It just made it tough. But I was drafted to play there for a reason, and I would never take the experience back. I had a great experience there before I got traded to Chicago, and played with a bunch of great guys, and one being Buck Williams, which kind of mentored me when I was young coming in the league.
Yeah, you played with Sam Bowie.
Yeah, I played with Bowie.
Everybody was traded and went to a great situation.
Yeah.
Now, when you was in New Jersey, I know there's a lot of coaching changes. How many coaches you went? You went through like 3 or 4 coaches?
I went through 4. And again, that was the instability of the program.
Yeah.
I started off with Dave Wool. He was there for about 17 games. And then I had Bob McKenna. He was there. And then I had Willis Reed and I had Bill Fitch. So it was just one of those things to where there was a lot of inconsistencies again for a young guy like myself, because it's like a lot of things that you've never dealt with before being young, and if it all hits you, it could be a tough situation, and that's what it was for me. It was tough, and that's as a player. And when they talk about the business, that's the business side that I had to learn to understand, because it's a business. It is a business, and things happen in businesses. If teams want to try to do better or whatever it is they're trying to accomplish, things happen because it's business.
Now, when you went to Chicago, how did you find out? Did they call you?
Yeah, they called. They called and said that you had been traded to Chicago. Now, when that news got out, a lot of people were very, very happy for me.
Yeah, I bet.
They were, but they just looked at, oh, you're going to go play with Michael Jordan. That's the thing. But for me, I've watched Sam Vincent. I watched Sedale Threet. Those are guys that were there before me that played behind Michael, and I knew that their playing time was just kind of like a roller coaster. It was up and down.
They play like 40 minutes.
Yeah, somewhere else, and then they get traded there, and you're playing behind the best player in the world, and you're just not going to get the time that you need. Now, with me coming off of leading the team in scoring, now Jersey in scoring, my 3rd year, I was just starting to come into my own.
Yeah.
So if you were going to trade me, I would have wished that you would have traded me to somewhere to where I can continue my flow.
Yeah.
But I think going to Chicago, my flow was broken a little bit, and it was tough. It was tough, but it was great playing with the guys that I played with, because those guys, I went from subpar practices to being able to compete every day hard. Because if you didn't bring it, boom, they were gonna come get you. You know what I mean? And it was a lot of jibber jabber in the training room before practices started. So you had to come out and play. So I did like that experience to get back on track, to practice hard and to compete hard day in, day out. And those guys did it in Chicago.
Now playing with Michael Jordan, how was the experience like? Because everyone says, like, you could be honest, this is a podcast. Everybody say Michael Jordan's an asshole and all this stuff. Because nobody ever has anything humbling to say about him. He's a competitor. He's a competitor.
And Mike is great. Mike is a great guy. Mike is not the kind of guy that's going to treat you bad.
Yeah.
If he treats you bad, it's him just challenging you, like in practice and stuff. Yeah, he's just pushing you. But, you know, behind the scenes, I don't know exactly who he is behind the scenes as far as, I don't know, maybe going to management and telling management to do X, Y, and Z. I never seen that side of him.
Yeah.
But if I had to say or judge his character, I would say that he's a great guy. I mean, he's just very, very competitive. He just is. He's a competitive guy, and he wants to win. He knows what it takes to win, and he wants his players and people around him to compete, you know, night in and night out.
So you never went on no casino trip or went out to eat or nothing like that?
We never did that, but I tell you, we did, you know, we would have things in the room, like, you know, guys were playing cards and stuff and things in the room on the road, but everything was clean fun with us. Everything was clean fun.
And you won a championship that year.
Yeah. It again, you go from a team that was down to a team that, again, when they traded for me and Cliff Livingston, they were that close the few years before to winning, to getting out of the East anyway. They had to get past Detroit. And I'm not going to say because me and Cliff got traded there, but there was just more guys that can contribute and push the team, even if it was in practice. They could push the team and make the first 5 guys better and challenge those guys. And I think that's what we done, and we figured out how to win. And winning a championship, man, you get a lot of guys, and you watch NBA basketball. You get a lot of guys commentating the games that were great players, but they never had the opportunity to win that championship. So for me to be able to win a championship, you know, it's something special. It's something special that a lot of guys that go through the league for 20 years might not ever get a chance to win.
Now, when you went there, did people pick the Bulls to be favorites to win the whole thing? Because Detroit was getting old and Boston was banged up. They still performed, but, you know, Bird had his back issues and McHale and Parrish was getting old. In Philadelphia, they were up there, but, you know, they were players away from being up in that level. Now, in the West, you had Portland. San Antonio got upset by Golden State in the first round that year. And then the Lakers, that was their first time without Kareem.
Right.
So I know you felt good about the situation. So you think y'all was going to be, you know, ranked like favorites to win it?
You know what? You from what you hear, we were probably going to be one of the teams that possibly could be or could challenge for a championship, okay? But they may have went off the past couple years to where, okay, they can't get out the East, you know, because Detroit was beating them, so they couldn't get out of the East. But yeah, once we got out of the East, all right, and we knew that we had a great chance. And that year we had a great year. We had a great year. You know, we won a lot of games, and we lost the first game, I think, in the playoffs. We lost that game. But after that, we just went on a tear. We went on a tear, man, and and once you start smelling and getting closer to it, then you know, hey, this could become reality, and that's what it was. And again, I think, including myself and a lot of the main guys, and Pip and MJ and Horace and those guys, and Bill Cartwright, those guys were hungry for a championship, and you know, they were right there every year before that. Finally got over the hump, won a championship, and once you win it, I mean, it builds your confidence so much to where you go out and you know what it takes to do what you need to do the next year. And I think they learned how to do it, and that's why they've been successful in winning and rings after the first year we won it.
Now, there's 2 big things that happened in that playoffs. What was your reaction like when y'all beat Detroit? When y'all saw Detroit and they walked off the court without shaking your hand?
You know, that game was. You know, and I like Isaiah, I like Joe Dumars, I like all those guys. You know, they had a great team. But it showed them as being sore losers. And, you know, it's one of those things to where you can't stay on top forever.
Yeah.
You just can't. And you know, what you had done before that, before we beat you guys, you should applaud yourself. Mm-hmm. Because, again, if you thought that you were going to go through this league and win a championship every year, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So I felt that they were kind of sore losers. But, you know, after watching the 30 for 30 a couple of nights ago, you know, I'm sure they were all apologetic afterwards. And they understood that it was bad sportsmanship. But that was, hey, it happened. It's over and done with. You know, we all do things. You're a young guy. We all do things when you're young that you're going to regret when you get older. But, hey, that's it. That's how you learn, by making mistakes. And I'm sure they learned a lesson. But they're still a class group.
Yeah. And you was a Magic Johnson fan.
Yeah, I love Magic Johnson.
When y'all beat LA, that was his last time. Now, how did that, like, when you look back at it, mm-hmm. that was like his final hurrah. I know he came out of retirement a few years later. Like, how did that hit you?
You know, when I first heard, I was in Sacramento too. Well, let me back up. When we beat them, you know, or just being on the floor with him, like when I was in Jersey and in Chicago. Again, I was guarding a guy that I idolized growing up. That's why I wore number 32 at Ohio State, because of Magic Johnson.
Everybody in Toledo says you're like the local Magic Johnson.
Yeah, that's what and that's why, I mean, I was disappointed when I got to Jersey. It used to be Dr. J's number, but it was retired, so I couldn't wear it. But it's just not just Magic. When I stepped on the floor for the first time against a lot of these guys that I grew up watching on TV, it's just a great experience. And but that Magic Johnson, just, you know, liking him the way that I did, and him being 6'9" and playing the point guard, it's just something that, man, when I was growing up, I loved him. He could do it all. He was my favorite.
Yeah.
He was my favorite. So to play against him was just, it was a good thing, a great thing.
I know you always cherish that moment.
Yeah, big time.
When you went to Sacramento, mm-hmm. is it the same about a phone call or?
Yeah, same thing. I traded 4 games into the second season. I was there for the first 4 games, and I got traded for Bobby Hansen in the first round pick. And again, I wasn't angry about the trade because I needed to go somewhere where I could play. Yeah, I could play. That's a big thing. You needed to play. And got there, and they had just traded for Spud Webb. Spud was there a couple weeks before me, and then Mitch Richmond was traded the year before. I mean, a week before me. So, again, it was one of those things where you're playing with good guys. Now, the team wasn't as great as it was in Chicago. Again, it was one of those teams that made some mistakes along the way, and they were still trying to dig themselves out of the hole that they had put themselves in the previous years. But another team to where we were competitive, not as competitive, but I enjoyed playing because I played a lot. I averaged like a little over, I think, 10 points a game, and only played 18 minutes a game. So I was starting to get myself back on track. So the trade going there, I was happy about the trade, but I was sad because I love Chicago. Chicago is a great place, the city in general, and then playing with those guys. I really enjoyed playing with the guys as well.
Sacramento is like a basic town in California. Yeah. You was playing with a bunch of young guys. Because Spud was like the oldest guy, then Wayman Tisdale was there.
They were young. You know, we had Pete Chilcutt, we had Anthony Bonner, we had Lionel Simmons, the train from LaSalle. Yeah, so we were young. And again, young guy, Randy Brown was on that team too. Young guys are always trying to find their way. And I mean, I was a young guy, so I know how it is. But again, I don't think I just looked at the opportunity to get back on track in regards to my playing time. That's what was most important for me. And I know when Phil traded me, that's the first thing that he said when he called me into his office, that we're trading you here because it's going to give you an opportunity to get back in your flow, get back to the groove that you had when you were in New Jersey. So
was Phil like the best coach you ever had?
Yeah, I don't want to say the best coach. He was I think Phil's a great motivator, and I think if you want to say the best coach, he's a better coach of getting the best out of his guys, if that makes sense. You know, he knows what it takes. He studies each guy that he's in contact with or plays for him, and he knows what it takes to bring the best out of them. Be it with conversation or without conversation. He just knows how to get the most out of the guys that he has on his team.
I read his book, Mind Games.
Yeah.
I couldn't like I had to be at least 40 or 50 to fully grasp the concept of what he's trying to say, but I read like a chapter of it. It was like, I just pick it up 30 years from now. Now, playing for him, I know he pushed you to the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that paid off when you went to Sacramento, where he was able to get your mojo back.
It did. It did. You know the triangle offense
Yeah.
that the Bulls run with Phil, and actually they ran in L.A. The triangle was kind of difficult for me because it was an offense that was dictated by reads. Depending on where the ball went, would depend on where you moved as a player. So it was kind of difficult. And with me being there just the year in a couple games, it was kind of hard for me to pick up. And then it doesn't help that you're playing spotty minutes. When you're playing spotty minutes, it's just tough to pick up. You know, again, basketball is a rhythm game. So you need time. At least I was the type of guy, because I'm so used to being on the floor. But you need time, or you need time on the floor to kind of pick up, you know, get your game going and understand what you're doing when you're traded to a new team. So it was tough for me. It was tough for me that year trying to pick up the triangle, because I didn't get the flow that I needed in order to pick up what I needed to pick up. But again, being young, and I can tell you this, and I can sit here and say I'm a much more mature guy now. And being young, you never know why things are happening to you. But I'm thankful for what did happen to me when I was young, because I think it's made me the person that I am today.
Now, you went overseas at the Sacramento Kings. They said you was like a superstar over there. Like, how was the competition like different from playing American basketball?
Actually, the competition is great. And the good thing for me is that I played on great teams. It's not like I didn't go to places like third world countries, to where it's tough to live.
Yeah.
I played in places where it was almost like the States. You know, I had the restaurants like the States around. Everybody spoke English, so that made it easy for me. The game is more like a college game over in Europe, okay? Because the guys are a lot more fundamentally sound than what the guys are over here in the States. And they're probably not as physical over there as they are here. But as far as the competition, I played against a lot of guys like Sabonis. That was my first game I played against, and he played for Portland for a long time. You know, there was a lot of guys that I played against. Dominique Wilkins, they were all overseas. So
Dawkins played.
Yeah. A lot of guys went overseas and played. So, hey, I didn't have a problem with it. It was my fault, my mistake that I made when I was in Sacramento, because I did have guaranteed money on the table, but they only wanted to give it to me for 1 year, and me and my agent wanted a multi-year deal. So we tried to squeeze them, and they didn't bend. So it caused me to go overseas. And what happened was, when I got overseas, I got locked in. Because the overseas basketball starts a lot earlier than it does here. So you turn down guaranteed money over there, to try to come back and make a roster here.
Yeah.
So at that time, I just looked at it as, hey, you go get the money while you can, and just kind of go from there.
Now, it's nearly 20 years down the line. Do you feel like it was a mistake that you?
I do, and I would tell you this, because it all happened. I'm not gonna blame my agent, but what he wanted, I think it was more of what he wanted contract wise. And if I never forget this. I know Brad Sellers, one of my good friends, old teammates of mine. He called me and told me, hey, just take the money with Sacramento.
Yeah.
You know, you had a good year. That'll give you another year, and then you'll become unrestricted. So if they didn't want to pay you the money,
you can test the market.
You can test the market. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, if I had to do it over again, and this is advice to any young kid, you just make sure you take you take control of your own life. At the end of the day, I don't care if you have an agent or whatever it is, you make your own decisions. Don't allow somebody else to make your decisions. And I think I got stuck and got caught letting somebody else make the decision for me.
Okay. But, looking back on everything, you traveled the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best part about it all.
Great experience. Great experiences. I've been a lot of different places because the teams that I did play on in Europe, they played outside of our country because we played other good teams in what they call the Courage Cup. Yeah. So, I did get to experience a lot of other different places during my career overseas. And again, I would never trade anything that's happened to me to this point. I would never do that. I think what I would do is, though, if somebody needed advice like yourself or somebody younger, I would share my experiences with people just to let them know, hey, you need to really pay attention to what's going on because I've been through it. And if I can help you, that's what my job is. But I'm never going to beat myself up over what I should have done now, back then. I'm just not going to do that. I'm a good demeanor guy. I'm a happy guy, and I'm not going to let anything or none of my mistakes break my spirit and break the person that I am right now.
Okay. We're gonna get to the fun stuff now. All right. When you played in the NBA, what was your favorite NBA city?
Los Angeles.
You like playing at the Forum?
I love playing at the Forum, and I just like the city in general. It's a great place, man. It's it's something about California's sun that seems to be different from our sun. Even though it's the same sun, it's just always so bright in California. It's always bright, and I just love. Hey, when we got to California, you could shop. You could do whatever you needed to do. I just love California.
And you play in the area where the old classic stadiums, the Boston Garden, Chicago Stadium. Now, who is the hardest person to defend?
Playing against Michael Jordan. Okay, but let me say this. At my position, you had a lot of great guys. You had Jeff Malone. You had Rolando Blackman. You had a guy that two-guard position where those guys could come off the screen and shoot the ball right away. So you had to know how to play. You had to know how to defend these guys. Dale Ellis from Seattle.
Yeah, he hit the three.
Yeah, he can shoot the ball. It's just so many great guys that played that position. So to answer that question, the position in general was a tough position. It just was. But yeah, playing against great players like Michael Jordan and those guys were, it's great, man, because you had to, again, night in, night out, you had to have your tennis shoes laced and you had to be ready to defend.
Yeah. What about, you remember your first NBA game?
Against New York. I take that back. It was against, when we played a preseason game against New York. I can't recall my first game.
All right. Career high.
34 maybe against Seattle. 37 maybe against Seattle. Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Now, going to the NBA today, what are some of the biggest changes? Like, I know the physicality of the game is different. Mm-hmm. Would you like to see that brand of basketball being played again? Or you think guys like LeBron or Durant can't handle that kind of...
I think the game was a physical game back then. The game back in the day versus now, back in the day it was a half-court game. Outside of the Lakers, when Magic Johnson was pushing the ball down the floor, making passes, setting his guys up for easy buckets, you didn't see a lot of teams playing like that.
Yeah.
You would walk the ball down the floor and everything would be in the half court.
Yeah.
All right, now you're seeing the guys like up and down the floor, up and down the floor, fast-paced game. Now, these guys are a lot more athletic than what we are.
Yeah.
A lot more athletic. I mean, these guys are jumping all over the place, doing whatever they want to do. And I'm not going to talk about LeBron because he's just a freak of nature. Yeah, he's just a little different than everybody else. But, yeah, the game, as far as the speed and the athleticism, is a lot different than when I played. And I think the physicality of the game nowadays is good. The referees, they do the best that they can in trying to control the toughness of the game, the roughness of the game. But, hey, it's basketball. It's a sport. It's a contact sport just like football almost.
Do you hate playing against the Pistons?
Back then, it was tough playing against the Pistons. And you know what? When I watched the show 30 for 30, what the Pistons did a nice job of doing is setting the tone.
Yeah.
Like you saw some guys drive to the bucket and they might hard foul you. Okay, they were setting the tone like, hey, if you come in here, that's what's gonna happen to you. So what it did was it played with your psyche. So now it's like playing against Manute Bol. If you drive in there, he was 7'6", he's going to block your shot. Yeah. So the thing is that now if you play against the Pistons and you drive in there, somebody might hit you. And even if they weren't going to hit you, you thought about being hit because that's what they were known for.
So you just settle for mid-range jump shots.
Yeah, you try to, and that's not good as a player because you want to play the way that you want to play. But they did a nice job of setting the tone for them and setting the tone for other teams that they played against.
I was doing some cleaning out. And I found this.
Oh, okay.
1991.
Okay. I get them in the mail all the time, man. People send them to me or send them to my parents' house in Columbus, and I sign them and send them back.
My uncle told me a story about your dad. He used to be a mail carrier, right? Yeah, because I told him he was going to come on the show.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, he was a mail carrier. He used to, like, tell jokes when he was at Bowser.
Uh-huh.
And he was telling me, like, how great they were. Now, out of the top 5, where would you rank yourself? I know there's, like, Kelvin Ramsey, Jim Jackson, you.
You know, it's a good question. You know, that and again, if somebody wanted to do that, they could do that. That's just tough for me. Like when I read stuff in the newspaper about a top 5, and there's so many great players that's come out of Toledo that you probably don't even know. And I'm just saying that a lot of people don't know, but people know who they see.
Yeah.
They know who they see, or they know whose name they hear about. But you know, you had the Truman Claters, you had the Donald Collins, you had the Calvin Ramseys, you had the Jim Jacksons, you had Jimmy Smith that played at Scott that went to Wisconsin. But you had so many good guys that a lot of people don't talk about, but they're from Toledo, Ohio. You know, so that question there, I'll let somebody else answer that question. You know.
Yeah, I know you and Jimmy boys, so
yeah.
I'll leave that alone. But you're like the first professional athlete to come on, so you know I'd like to thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem. I'll do what I need to do. Anytime I can help out, I'll make sure I do that.
All right.
All right.